It's not the diamonds, it's not the pearls. I'm that girl, I'm that girl, I'm that girl, I'm that girl.
I was down, but I'm always gonna get back up. I'm a rage, but I know I'm gonna get that truck. Done losing, I'm about to get that win. DJ, time to get my spin. Cornrows and Tim, don't break our bend. Took a long, long time to get this in. Took a long, long time to get this in. Took so long, had to make the friend. When the love disappeared, when the winds get thin.
Hey YouTube, it's me, Christiana. Welcome back to my channel. Welcome back to When in Doubt Pink. Okay, so I know that this video is kind of like long overdue, but I had a situation recently that reminded me that I was considering making this video, and so here we are. Today we're going to talk about the crisis friend. Before we get started, I just want to say that my opinions are my own. This is an open forum, and if you happen to get your feelings hurt, you probably shouldn't have been here snooping on this video in the first place. Let's get into it. Do not call me. So what is a crisis friend? Okay, so I feel like the first time I saw anybody talking about it, and I am gonna try to find this video for you, this guy on TikTok, Casanova something, I forgot his screen name, but he was basically like talking about how everybody kind of has that one friend that stuff is always happening to. They're always in some type of drama, always in some type of something is going on with them, whether it's like something, you know, that was outside of them or actually self-inflicted, meaning like they could not keep going back to that guy after you told them to stop going back to that guy, but they keep going back and then crying that the things aren't going, like when things aren't going well, they come back to you and keep complaining about how they're like fed up and they're over that guy and like all this stuff, but they never like actually listen to any of your advice.
I'm gonna say this out loud, and it may just pertain to somebody that you know, or it might just pertain to you, but I feel like we all know somebody that's like this. Everything that you complain about is literally your fault. You enable all that bullshit that go on in your life, and you put up with the shit. You do that. And then you calling, you whining, you complaining in people's ears, and one day people gonna be fucking sick and tired of hearing your ass calling, complaining about the same shit over and over again. If I wrote down the shit that you do on a piece of paper and I handed it to a stranger, they'd be like, what the fuck is wrong with this person? That's you. That's you. You complain about the same shit over and over. You're not tired of complaining about the same shit? The same shit. You've been going through the same problems over and over again. You ain't realized that you the common denominator and that you are the one that's doing the shit. It's your fault. You ain't figured that out yet. And when people try to give you advice and tell you to maybe try something else, you make up every excuse not to try something else. And you say, nah, that just couldn't work. At this point, so many people are just ready to say, fuck you, because we sick of hearing your shit. It's like if Stuck on Stupid was a person. Some people just like to complain. Some people just literally don't want help. And you can't deal with them. You just can't. These types of people are so draining. They will drain you. I can't stand a self-inflicted wound. I don't think they understand that the type of help that they need is from themselves. I saw you inflict that wound on yourself, and now you're screaming for help. But you did it. It was you.
But then also you have crisis friends where stuff outside of them, legitimate things that are not like self-inflicted, also like, you know, are constantly happening to them. And also that's annoying too, right? Or it's annoying if you are a good friend in that scenario. I'll say that because, you know, I think that, well, not even like good friend, because I do feel like there are different levels of friendship. And sometimes, you know, one person's level of friendship with someone in particular could be different than that person's idea or level of friendship in return. You see like 70-30 relationships all the time, or sometimes it's not even that like serious. Maybe it's like, I don't know, like math. But sometimes like relationships can be uneven in the same relationship, you know, which really means that one person is probably doing a lot more dumping than the other person, or one person is bailing a friend out much more often than it ever happens in return. Crisis friend. When Casanova was talking about it on TikTok though, he was definitely referring to that one friend that comes with their relationship problems, and it's very clear that they're looking for advice. They're looking for advice because they're really not, right? They just want to kind of blow some steam a lot of the times, but then you tell them, you know, you give them the best advice you can offer, and then they end up like going back to the person, and then they come back to you, and yeah, well, okay, we got it. Now answer me this: is it the worst thing in the world to have a crisis friend? Let me tell you something. Some of my best crisis friends really kept things really interesting during the pandemic. Like kept things really, really juicy. Not that I'm like reveling in other people's like misery, you know, but I will say the crisis friends keep things interesting. Are you the crisis friend? Come on, be honest. I will say that it depends. It depends on who you are if I'm the crisis friend. Because you might have some hot shit going on that's way beyond anything I could come up with. Are you the girl that keeps going back to the guy and complaining about it? Are you the girl that shit just be happening to? Are you the girl that's always in a fight and always wants somebody to come with you down to the fight? And you be dead ass wrong. Okay. And is it okay that you're a crisis friend? Lots of questions here, I think. And I would say that, like, I think it's okay sometimes. Okay, so what I was saying before is that I am definitely a crisis friend, but not to everybody, yeah? I have always been the person that the crisis people tend to seek out, okay? And so I have a lot of thoughts on navigating that, and we can talk about that in a second. But I think my original intention for even like bringing this topic up is because I do think that there is a such thing as having balance, right? Because I am a crisis friend to some people. There are some people who I am that to them. And then there are some people where they come to me because they are the crisis friend, right? But I've learned to never let them get on my nerves.
Okay, before we move forward, I just wanted to interject with another video that I found from this guy Shaheem that I also follow on TikTok, and I value his thoughts and opinions on different things. I'm not sure if I like completely agree with his take, but I thought that it would be good to add here just for a little more balance, especially because, you know, Casanova's approach to this topic was very rough. I think we needed a little bit of balance before I move forward.
Do you know what the most exhausting type of friend is? The crisis friend. Every day, every week, there is a new crisis that they have to have support for. They need to be emotionally rallied around, and everyone.
All right, we got to talk about this, because when I say that there is a problem in Western society around hyper-individualism and how that permeates mental health culture, this is a shining example of that. I ain't finna attack Shorty, but a lot of people are horrible community members in the sense that they ignore the reality of the society that we live within and how that can impact people in an interpersonal level and why people are in crisis, right? And it's okay if you don't always have the emotional capacity, but this response to not having the capacity really reflects more on the people who are expressing it than the people who are in crisis, in my opinion. First, I want to say that I'm a therapist who's very community oriented, and part of being in community with other people is opening yourself up to the possibility of being helped and helping others. Is it true that sometimes people can be in perpetual crisis? Absolutely. Does that mean that you get to abandon these people at every turn? No. You can set boundaries, you can express yourself emotionally and things of that nature. But if you find yourself always being out of reach of people when they're in crisis, baby, I would reflect within. Ultimately, however, though, things like this serve as nothing but reinforcement for white supremacy, this indifference that a lot of people feel towards other people's issues. It is all connected, it's interwoven, and, you know, I could talk about it all day, but like, yeah. And listen, the macro influences the micro and vice versa, but I always find it intriguing when people put the cart before the horse, meaning you are going to criticize people for being in crisis or having like these emotional needs that you can't meet, as opposed to questioning why we have a society that creates these issues to begin with. You know, I don't know, just some food for thought. And I think, really think about that last part that I said.
Now, although I am not the girl who keeps going back to the guy, I am the girl that the universe just keeps taking a shit on, okay? I have been the crisis friend in the past where I've had to like borrow money from people. I like have needed a ride, or like I have just had really shitty things happen to me, oh my god, yo, or a place to live. Like I am that friend, or have been that friend. I think it's a little bit more understandable when I get into the details of why certain things have happened to me, which we're not gonna do today. But I'm glad that I can at least own my shit a little bit. Like I am a crisis friend. And as a crisis friend, if you are a crisis friend too, I have been in situations before that I have actually had to let go some of my crisis friends because they were crisis friends, to the point that I could not take it anymore and had to free myself from them, right? Which is a little bit more why I was giving an disclaimer at the front of this video, because although I'm over here kind of living my life and minding my own business, a lot of ex-people in my life still tune in. Hi. One thing I've learned over the years is how to not like wear out my friends by always bringing them problems. Sometimes, depending on what the problem is, will actually dictate who I tell that thing to. You know what I mean? Or like if you have a handful of friends, you have 4 or 5 friends, right? Or like close friends, I should say. Maybe you share one issue with each of them and then you report back as you like clean up that situation or get through it with that particular person. Maybe not everybody. Maybe you skip somebody this time and tell them the next time you have an issue. They're like being really cognizant of how much you are pulling on people. It's just considerate. Or like I think it's considerate, but I think it's really, really important that before you kind of come pouring all your stuff, to be asking about that person's capacity emotionally to take on what you might have going on, and being real financially, and just again being considerate about timing of coming to people with your shit, because people got their own stuff going on too. A lot of the time when I'm coming to someone with an issue, I've already been milling on it for a second before I've even gone to talk to this other person. And a lot of the times I'm kind of thinking already of what the solutions might be, and I just need to kind of talk it out with someone. Kind of going with a more like collaborative problem solving situation is a little bit better than just like coming to someone, venting and spewing all your problems on them, and then expecting them to like have all these words of wisdom for you. I think kind of coming to them again with like a set of solutions you've already thought of, or you know, whatever, like you might need to rework. Maybe they aren't the best solutions, but like you've already kind of done some of that thought work. I think it's also kind of considerate. I don't think you need to like wear yourself out with this, but I do think going back every once in a while, especially when there's no shit going on, and going back to that person, your listening ear, and thanking them for always being around, mentioning that you see them always taking on your shit with you, and making sure like that you know, like it's where it's obvious to them that you know you be having some shit going on. Like, you know, I think sometimes people don't see themselves fully, or sometimes it doesn't come off like they see themselves fully, and that acknowledging like, yes, I really appreciate that you were there for me, I really appreciate that you were listening to all my bullshit, and I'm gonna try to like not be dumping on you in the future. I think that goes a long way. And make sure you're talking about something else every once in a while, not just your problems. They got problems too. Now, as I said before, right, I have cut off some crisis friends in my day. All right, some were definitely for the best. Some I feel bad for how I chose to handle or not to handle the situations as they like unfolded. I have learned a lot though, when it comes to being able to show up for your friends, but also being able to show up for your crisis friends. This is probably obvious, but setting your boundaries and letting people know your capacity, like what we just talked about, like letting people know what your capacity is to like take on their emotional stuff. I think that in one particular situation, I ended up cutting the person off because I had already communicated several times that I could not take on that particular issue, and then they kind of just blew past my boundary and let me have every little thing that was going on with them, and it was shocking and it was disturbing and traumatizing, and you know what I mean. So then it was like we were both in crisis at that point. We were both in crisis because you didn't want to listen to me when I said I couldn't do this with you. Get somebody else to do it. All right, like everybody has limitations, and I think that's fine, but being really firm about where your boundaries are, and then making sure that they know you're not fucking playing when they decide to like jump over your boundaries, I think is really important. But maybe you don't have to cut them off. Okay, don't be like me. I think when your friends are coming to you and they kind of have like we talked about, a set of solutions, listen to the damn solutions, because sometimes the shit don't be thought out all the way. Sometimes things are being decided from a place of fear or scarcity, or ignorance, meaning like just not knowing enough information, right? I think I talked a few months back about like the dangers of moving in silence, good and bad, right? Is that sometimes like people make decisions without consulting other people who might be more knowledgeable about a thing, right? And so like I think if someone's coming to you and they have a series of solutions that might be helpful to their issue, you know, give it a listen. You might be able to talk somebody off a ledge. And depending on what you hear, you might want to, you know, push that friend to go see somebody. I've been really open on this channel that I have started seeing somebody again, because I dumped the last person. But I'm seeing somebody again, and honestly it's kind of cool because now this person is like getting paid to hear all my problems. All right, my friends and stuff are not being compensated to hear my shit. Not to mention a professional might be able to like identify different signs that you as a friend, just as a friend, a regular person, unskilled, you know, in psychology and psychiatry, you might miss. So I think it's really good to be pushing friends to go see help. Actually, a friend of mine is why I'm going back to therapy. She was like, you know, I don't even know how you are standing right now. Like how, like life is like dog walking the shit out of you right now and you're still functioning. How? Because I could have never been doing this without therapy. And you know, and that was kind of her pitch to me to like go back to therapy. So yeah, shout out to that person. Now, one thing I am still working on, because I am a deeply like empathic person, is like being able to listen to someone else's issue without making it your issue emotionally, like taking it on in any sort of way or trying to get involved necessarily, especially if it has nothing to do with you. Over the years, I have found myself like jumping on the sword to try to help people. And I mean, does falling on a sword sound good? Like, does that sound amazing? No. Yeah, figuring out ways to like unload, offload immediately, I think would have saved me from a lot of anxiety in the past. Now, depending on what it is, I can take it in, let it go just as quickly as I heard the thing. And then sometimes I still struggle, you know what I mean? This isn't perfect, but it is something that I realized is super important when dealing with people who always have problems. You guys know my cousin that I am always hanging out with, LaRon. Years ago, years and years and years ago, you know, she used to really be like the kind of person who would like dominate a conversation. And I remember, and I'm glad I did this, like I like had a grown-up conversation with her and was like, hey, you know, sometimes it feels like you're taking up a lot of space here and you're not actually listening to me, or that you're figuring out ways to turn this conversation like about yourself. You know, it was hurtful for her to hear, but she heard it, right? And we never had to have that kind of conversation again. And I think that is something that has been also very like effective moving forward. Sometimes people don't realize how much space they're taking up, is what I'm saying, right? And so like your crisis friend might actually think shit is sweet. Things are cool. This is my person I can come to with my issues, and they don't realize that you're actually getting worn out by the imbalance in the relationship. So I do think it's actually really useful to at least try to mediate that before you get the clipping people off. Again, don't be like me. Anyway, crisis friends. Somebody is a crisis friend out there. Don't sit here and try to front in my comment section either. Somebody is a crisis friend, okay? I be telling y'all I'm the damn crisis friend. I be coming to y'all with my crises, okay? If you know, you know. I'm kidding, but yeah, this is an open forum. I didn't really like, you know, want to make this too much of a deep dive kind of thing. It's just an interesting thing that I think a lot of people started talking about all at one time at one point, and then just came back up as being something really relevant to talk about. And like I said, me being someone else's crisis friend is what got me back in therapy. So yeah, if you need to go talk to somebody, do that. Okay. All right, comment, rate, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye.